Can you touch just briefly, because I was speaking to Gillian about this a couple of weeks back, and the script has gone through some changes for what eventually led to be on the screen. Do you just want to kind of touch upon that?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones we had was the 3 stories were all quite tightly structured in the script, and Matt and Diane's story doesn't actually appear in the script until like 3/4 of the way through. But once Amanda was on board as an actress, the funders, the money men, decided we need to get her into the film more, so they had to recut and restructure around kind of their notes. And I think it does completely change the structure of the script and kind of how everything kind of comes to be. There's a lot more room in the script to build up to the kidnapping as well, but again, it's all to do with kind of money and time and things that you're doing when you're kind of shooting low budget. You can't afford the luxury of having that amount of time to kind of shoot script page by page. Obviously something's got to give.
As the writers, I mean, how was that approach with yourselves? Did they discuss that with you at all?
No, that part was done in the edit, but there were other rewrites along the way to do with budgets and things that did come to us, and I think, guessing, but I would say to do with budgets, character notes. We had notes from producers, funders, directors, actors. No, it was a funder's child.
Oh, yeah, their niece, 14-year-old niece gave us notes on the script, and we listened to none of them.
Which scene did she give notes on?
That's one scene with Richard.
Right, of course. Canadians.
I think we must have had, I'm guessing, maybe about, would you say 15 rewrites?
Yeah, from the moment we gave it to Katrin, the director, until it went to screen, it was about 15, 16 rewrites. And that was over a period of 5 years it took to get that film made. We had the funding 3 years in, we had it, but the 11th hour they pulled out. But the director, to her credit, stuck with the script. Obviously there was something there that she wanted, and she kind of stuck with it, and they managed to find someone else to kind of come on board.
Just on the director for a moment, actually, I noticed last night as well, I was having a look online just to see what stuff was online about it, and I noticed that only in one place I could find anyway, yourselves have your writing credit, and only on IMDb is the director of the writing credit, but only on IMDb could I find that. Why was that?
That was because the funding, the application for funding changed halfway through, and it was open to non-Canadians, but then it was only open to Canadians, but we were already in the halfway through the progress of being selected for funding, so it was a condition that the director had to kind of come on board as a writer.
So it's to tick the box, really?
Yeah, I mean, she did give us notes. We did write everything and do all of the rewrites ourselves. None of that was ever done by anyone else, but she did give us notes, certainly.
Anyone? Yeah?
Is there anything you've learned from this process and that you think you would do differently in any future projects that you might be doing?
It's definitely a steep learning curve. I think just initially you go in, give it to a director, and you think that's your script kind of handed over, but then as we kind of learned, producers, funders, there's so many people with an opinion on your work, and that's sometimes quite tricky to kind of work your way through. It's listening to the people that have the voice that's going to benefit your script, as opposed to just people that are kind of thrown in their opinions for whatever reason. But by and large, I think Katrin, the director, and the producers kind of got the script straight away for us, so we were always on that kind of even keel with them, and even as it got to kind of camera stage where they were having to make changes for budget or location or whatever reason, they were still very open and they kept us involved, even though there's an 8-hour time gap. It was always nice to wake up in the morning and have an email with, can you change this? And then we needed for. So it was good that Katrin kept us all the way through. I don't think you'll get that on most productions. I think the bigger the budget, the less involved the writers would certainly be. But for me, I think it was a positive experience, but kind of hard going, especially when you're trying to kind of stay true to what you've written.
Obviously, I mean, you're getting constant notes and there's rewrites to be done. I mean, during the principal photography, was there ever a moment where you really had to kind of dig your heels in and say, no, this is how it should be, even based on the notes?
Yeah, there was the scene with Ted or Richard in the bathroom. He didn't want to do that scene.
Which
just
scene was that?
when he was on, sitting on the toilet crying.
Oh, right, yeah.
He didn't want to do that, so we felt it was really important to Richard's character that scene's there, because even though he doesn't say anything, you see a little bit of vulnerability underneath, and what might be going on with him a little bit. So we dug our heels in with that one and said, no, that one is staying. And we had a battle with that for about 3 days, I think, where it was back and forth. No, it has to be rewritten. I was saying, no, it has
to be a
stay.
toilet seat.
It has to be. Yeah, because they even they did say, can he sit on the bath? Can he? We were like, no, we just sit him there and just give him a moment to just cry and be a bit vulnerable. So a couple of things we did fight for, and a couple of things that, if it wasn't really going to affect the story or the character, then we agreed to them and we just said, okay, well, we'll think of another way to do that, we'll think of a way around that.
Did he give a reason why it was just completely opposed to crying on the toilet?
Quote, I mean, that may be wrong, but remember it was Ted said, no men cry on the toilet. But we all know that's not true.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Why was it filmed in Canada? Was it ever set in Scotland originally?
Well, no, we went to film school in Canada, and we met Katrin through the programme, and we had written the script purposely low budget and kind of low key to bring it back to the UK to try and get funding. It just so happens as we were leaving, she'd sent an email asking if anyone had projects, and Jill sent it to her just to get even a director's eye on it. It wasn't to try and kind of get anything optioned, it was just more to see what a director thought about the work, and then she got back straight away and said, I want to make it. So.
Have you got any more upcoming projects? I mean, we came here maybe not necessarily knowing what to expect, and been pleasantly surprised and funnier than what I thought, sitting on the one. So have you got anything else that's coming up in the pipeline, or things that you're trying to promote and get that all seen? I know that you're away from Canada and you've not got the film school behind you, trying to then get your work seen by someone else.
Yeah, we're both doing kind of individual projects just now. It's quite hard coming back to the UK, because we did get kind of contacts and things at film school. So now that we're back in the UK, it's been a bit like starting again, certainly, and trying to break into the industry all over again. But for me anyway, I've got a project that's might be going into development. I'm not too sure. And then Kevin's working on a script that's set in Scotland.
Yeah, we went through, we made some contacts with people I work with, and we went through the kind of crowdsourcing way of kind of Indiegogo, so we managed to kind of get a bit of money to try and make another feature, another kind of low budget feature set here. So I'll be working on that for the foreseeable, and hopefully in August we'll be looking to shoot that for a couple of weeks.
We did write another script out in Canada, which was a comedy about drug addicts. That's probably equally as offensive as Random Acts of Romance. So we've always kind of got that, and we've always said that we'll work on that and maybe do something with it and see what we can do. But that one, we kind of put it on the back burner. We got to a point where we were a little bit stuck with the story, so might revisit that sometime.
One of the things I read last night as well, a review, it was a column review, was the guy saying everyone will find something to relate to in the film. I thought that was quite true. Was that an intention when you were writing it, just to have some kind of, not everything.
The truth was enough.
But there was kind of something there for at least everyone to relate to one thing. Did you kind of think about that when you were writing it?
Yeah, we did. We tried to think about, we wanted to explore different couples and why different couples break up and why they don't work and the problems and stuff that they have, and we thought if we explored lots of different angles there would be something that everybody could relate to and see flaws in a character that they think, oh, I had a boyfriend or a girlfriend like that or something. So we did think about that, but we also tried to write the relationships as entertaining as we
The one character that, was hilarious, but I was just like, I can't relate at all, was the stalker. Mental. I'm glad I can't relate to it.
That was all Kevin.
Well, I was going to ask.
No, it was interesting that in the script it's a lot darker with the whole stalker subplot, and I think Katrin did a good job of kind of elevating it, kind of a bit more quirky and a kind of a bit more funny, because I think stalking's not funny. But obviously, she's made it slightly amusing. I still think it's terrifying, but it is a real thing. I think, and it's the same thing with the couples with obsession, and why people stalk's quite an interesting concept to explore, and whether you mistreat it like we did and just make a mockery of it, or you can actually really look at it and think, why do people get obsessed, and why do people, go that way as opposed to going into a loving relationship? I think it's quite interesting.
It's always the quiet ones. Anyway?
I was a wee bit disappointed that Pamela Anderson wasn't in it. I heard she was meant to be in it. Is that true? And if so, who is she maybe going to play?
She did read it at one point. Was it Diana that she was going to play? We had a couple of big names read it. We had Carrie Ann Moss read it, looking to play Bud. Christian Slater read it, looking to play Richard. Was there anybody else? I think it was Gina Gersh.
Yeah.
As well for Bud. So there's a few people, but yeah, I don't know if Pamela turned it down or we turned Pamela down.
Kevin didn't.
How
do you feel, just while we're on the subject of casting, how do you feel about the casting? Were you happy with it? Do you feel like it could have been maybe improved in certain characters, certain areas?
I think for us again, Katrin was really open to showing us auditions all the way through the process. Anything that was quite a lengthy process of trying to cast, and she was really good at just sending kind of video files of everyone's audition. So we saw a lot of faces, and I think for me personally, after a while, you're hearing the same kind of scene over and over with different faces. You kind of do tune out to a certain degree, and that's where I think a director's important, and other people, casting agents, because they can take that step back from the script. I didn't have that. If they were fluffing a line, I was getting angry, stuff like that. So I think, seeing it all and seeing the people that could have been, I think she got it pretty spot on with the kind of the dynamics anyway.
I love the husband, the actor who played the husband's at the start. I can't remember the character's name, it's awful, but very nervous actor. David, yeah. Played the nervous part really well, I felt.
Yeah, I don't think Amanda auditioned, obviously, because she's a big star. So I think as soon as she said she would do it, they were just quite happy to cast her as Diane. And I had interviewed Amanda a few years before on the set of Stargate when I was studying journalism. So I'd seen her as Samantha Carter in Stargate, and then I thought it's going to be really strange seeing her as Diane and being so feisty. But I thought she was great. I thought Katrin really got that right, casting her. And the same with Ted as Richard. I thought he just read the script and got who Richard was, and apart from the toilet scene, obviously.
Sorry, someone. Yeah.
Jill, I read last night that you hadn't seen a film until it was sent to you on DVD a month before you saw it in Edinburgh. What was your first impression seeing it?
I kind of went, the first time I watched it, I was just thinking, that bit from the script's not there, that line's missing. I think I was just comparing it to the script rather than watching it as a film. And then when I saw it in Edinburgh, it was the first time that I actually sat down and watched it as a movie. So I think the first time, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but not because it was bad, just because I was too busy judging it against the script. And then the second time when I did watch it in Edinburgh, I really liked it. I thought, I'm pleased with it, and I just took it in as a film rather than thinking about the script.
Again?
A lot of in the film was about food. Who's the foodie between the two of you?
Yeah. Think like that. Yeah, no, just love of food basically, just lace it in any way we can.
Can I ask, see when you're writing a script, do you go into every little detail, like the fact that when she went to meet for the ransom, she had on white socks with her stiletto shoes, and then the stalker was outside the window and she was on the bike and she got her foot caught, and a lot of things like that. Does that come down to you, or is that somewhere else in the process that we then put these fine details in?
No, that's just everyone getting involved. The script's there for people to interpret, and we obviously try and keep it as our intentions on the page, and then everyone's got a different view of interpreting any situation. That, like you were saying, you're trying to identify a protagonist, a main character, but your main character's different from someone else, you know, so that kind of objectivity, I think, is important in the scripts, because it gives people the whole stalker look, you know, I didn't see a certain look for Lynn, and obviously that's the costume designers bringing out the quirks. Also with the getting the foot caught on the bike, it may have been an accident, it may have been planned, it may have been the actress kind of freewheeling off the scene. You know, all these things kind of come together and kind of add to what we kind of write.
We had some details in the script and then others that popped up. We're like, well, that's a good idea, that's really good they did that. Like, for example, the really stupid kimono that Richard had on was written into the script that he had on this ridiculously short, too tight for him kimono. So there was certain things that were written in and other things that were just other people, actors or directors had put them in.
Do you have favourite characters in the script, and did that change when you saw the film, if you can see it as a movie now?
Yeah, I think on the page, when we'd written the script, I had a lot of fun with Matt, just especially in that phone call that he does and stuff. So I think in the script I would see Matt, but then when I watched it, Ted as Richard for me was just really funny and totally brought him to life, so that changed for me.
Yeah, for me, I thought Matt read better on the page, and then when you see him, he's actually an idiot. He's really frustrating, and you understand, because what we try to do with, I think, Matt and Diane was kind of have that to and fro. You're not really sure, you know, who's right, who's wrong, but I think after seeing the way Matt's played out as an idiot and a bit of a failure, you can understand Diane's frustration more. I think Bud was the biggest surprise for me, because obviously we changed her to a female, but I wasn't sure if she would kind of be that annoying little fly you want to keep swatting away, always kind of offering up advice, but I think she worked really well, because I think they used her sparingly through it as opposed to kind of overkill with it. So yeah, Bud's always surprises me when I watch it.
How much, when the both of you were obviously writing, how much of the intimate side of the relationships and even just the framework of the relationships were drawn upon from some form of real life?
It's all fiction.
All
Plead the
fiction.
fifth.
Who's the stalker, eh?
Sci-fi.
Sorry, you feel the same question?
I'm not sure. We just took little realities that we sort of had heard about, and some of it.
You knew someone.
And you dare say me.
Told us that story, and we just put it.
What a cop-out answer. Anyone else have a question? No? Anyone from the back? Anyone from the back's had a question? That's... Yeah, go on, put up your hand, you know you want it. Somebody wants it. Nobody wants it. There you go, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering about the Matt and Diane story. About there's obviously this issue in the relationship that's there, but it goes unsaid right up until the end. Was that intentional, and what was the thinking behind that?
I think it was just more to kind of tease it out and not have it explicitly said. We're just trying to kind of lace through the kind of underlying problems. Like any relationship and any argument, it's not kind of people will just go about heads down and kind of ignore it and try and keep it buried, and then eventually it'll come up with little niggles. And I think that's what we try to do with Matt and Diane, is just kind of slowly bring it out to the point where that was it, and then have that kind of honest moment where that's the real reason why they don't work, but we're obviously too oblivious or too scared or too insecure to kind of admit that's the reason why, as opposed to saying straight off. I mean, it'd probably be an easier life if somebody just said, this is why, see you later, and then away they go, but obviously it'd be a quick film if they'd done it.
The structure of the film and the scripts, does that differ much from what we've seen?
Yeah, it's quite different, because you just follow one set of characters for about 30 pages. So you're with, say, David and Holly for half an hour, and then you go back to the restaurant, and then you're with Richard for that half an hour, and then you go back and you're with Matt and Diane. So it was quite different, and I think that that was probably a bit of inspiration from films like Pulp Fiction, where Tarantino will just follow characters and stuff. We really like the idea of that, because we think when you see things again in the second story, you're like, oh, that's what that means, and that's what that relates to. So there was a lot more that was revealed in the way that we had written the structure, that had changed the structure. It does a little bit of that at the start, but then it mixes it all together. So there was some things that really should have been revealed in the third act or the end of the script that came much sooner.
I remember you saying that it was kind of based, well, not based necessarily, but it was going to share that kind of structure like Pulp Fiction, but it did kind of come across a little bit more in the edit, like 2 Days in the Valley, for example.
Yeah.
You know, just these anti-crossing.
It was, and it's quite, when we had written it that way, we had to make sure that the timeline, you know, was kind of completely dead on in each of the stories. So when they changed anything in notes for rewriting, it was a bit of a headache, because you'd be like, wait a minute, what is that character doing at that time? No, they can't do that because they're back at the restaurant. And so that was quite difficult if it was anything rewriting wise for us to do. And there are a couple of things that I remember the first time watching it that I spotted that are mistakes that couldn't possibly happen because people couldn't be there because they're somewhere else. But that was done in the edit, so it was too late to change it.
Anyone else have a question? No? Okay.